All right. I was starting this like huge long Twitter thread, and then I was like, let's make a Loom, which can start our next conversation about this program and how I use it all the time. But anyway, so I made the tweet thread about sound design, and I love this conversation. I love talking about sound. I think it's amazing. I think it's an undervalued resource in terms of kind of unlocking what your film means and kind of pushing the narrative forward. So I saw a few people kind of respond with different versions of, people will forgive bad visuals before they'll forgive bad audio. And I completely agree. But I would say that's the beginning step of making your way down a kind of narrative sound design rabbit hole, for sure. So what I wanted to do was just talk about how to even push it a little bit further and what that looks like. So on this ranch water job, I have two small moments I wanted to share about how we kind of continued to push the sound design. So yesterday we were supposed to put the piece out, and my sound designer, Steve Horn, finished everything. We printed it. My editor, Lucas, synced up and then exported, and we were good to go. And then I listened to it and was like, ooh, I have two notes. And so Steve was gracious enough to kind of crack it back open, and we made two small adjustments, and I wanted to share those here. Let me change my screen to this. Okay, so 2 moments. This is the version that we were going to go to air with yesterday before I gave some notes. And the first place will be as we're coming out of the kind of initial cowboy like craziness. It goes to the two guys riding in the field with like big storms in the background. So here's this part.
Lightning spark splits wide the dark, and sky drums echo loud.
So that's the first bit. So there were in fact huge storms happening in the distance. In fact, we watched them roll all the way across the valley, and they totally just smashed us. It hailed, and we ended up actually losing our final location because it flooded, and it was crazy. But it made for dramatic pictures, which was awesome. But if you hear the VO line there, it's coming out, and then lightning sparks and splits wide the dark. And then they're running, and then it goes to that kind of like moment where the sound kind of dips, and it's the first like sounds in a cowboy's head moment, basically. I'll play it one more time.
Spark splits wide the dark, and sky drums echo loud.
So my initial reaction, I just kept feeling like that transition into the sound in the mind actually sounded like the tail end of a thunder, like a peal of thunder. And so I think also just to like key some difference between the moment with the animals before and this, which we pushed that in the sound design or in the color as well, to go from like super warm to this kind of cool moment to like really split those and create a different scene and a different feeling. I basically was like, can we add a massive thunder peal to this moment here and let that carry into the sounds in the cowboy's head moment? And this is what he sent back.
And lightning spark splits wide the dark, and sky drums echo loud.
Okay, not the most subtle thing, for sure, but that's in fact what the the thunder sounded like. It echoed off the canyon walls there, which was crazy. But that's actually what the thunder sounded like. So we dropped that in, and then you can hear it kind of extend and then rolls into the sound of the sounds in the cowboy's head moment. So I'll do that one more time.
In lightning spark. Splits wide the
Still
dark.
going.
And sky drums echo loud.
Yep. So that was note one. Note two was this part. Basically, after the cowboy and his buddies pick up the fencing supplies and they're headed out, there's a big line, "You re-ride bronc."
You re-ride bronc. Re-honky-tonk. Rework. Rethink.
Cool. So it basically re-ride bronc, re-honky-tonk, rework, rethink, right? These kind of four elements of cowboy life, basically. So each of these moments we kind of were, illustrating visually, and when I listened to it, it felt my note was this. That sequence right there felt too singular. Like it was so close focused on that horseman and that the movement of that specific horse that it felt like he was by himself and it was kind of his private moment. And I wanted it to feel like he was in the middle of a bunch of other riders, because I think we were going from a group of riders, a group at the bar, a whip back into the riders, and then kind of solitude on the cliffs. And it just felt like that I needed the sound to help create more of a differentiation between those four shots. And not just that, but that it really pushed us up, and then we came back down, and then up, and then back way down, so that we were kind of creating those waves. So I'll play it one more time, and then I'll show you what we fixed.
You re-ride bronc. Re-honky-tonk.
Great.
Rework. Rethink.
Great. So then the second thing that we decided was to move the rework line, which in that cut actually takes place over this shot. And then, so this is rework, and then the next one is rethink. And so Steve and I decided I moved this line over to this cowboy image where the guy and the girl go by. That felt more like a rework moment. So this is that scene now with the sound done.
Ride bronc. Re-honky-tonk. Rework. Rethink.
Yep. Boom. And then I was like, all right, that's perfect. I just needed a little bit more oomph out of that re-ride bronc, just to give it more space, make it feel like it was in the kind of in that first scene, the cowboy scene with lots of guys around, and then move rework over the second cowboy moment, which really just lets that our mind is thinking about that moment, and we're in and out of it so fast that it's almost like whiplash. And then that is the moment where we end on the hill with the fire, because that's really what that experience felt like to me. Was, we're down in the middle of the pen with horses, and there's dust, and the cows are loud, and everyone's yelling, and whatever. And then you end up up on a hill, and the sun's going down, and there's the crackle of the fire, and nobody's saying anything. So you're just kind of in your head reprocessing the day, and there's literally no one for 100 miles. And so I think that we use sound to really key that moment. And so yeah, that kind of reapproach There's a tiny little modulation, but I think really kind of snapped everything
Re
together.
ride bronc. Re honky tonk. Rework.
Quiet.
Rethink.
And then a final note, Ryan Bingham there is noodling on the guitar. That's actually him playing the guitar. While we were resetting for something, I had him just tinker for a minute, and I brought my sound guy in who's just out of frame. I shot it in a close-up. He's just out of frame, close miking the guitar, and that ultimately ended up being the soundtrack for the piece. So another one of those moments where you just go like, you know, be looking for sound that you can use later, more or less. And Ryan's obviously a world-class musician, so that helped out a lot. Anyway, this is, I know, a long video. I hope someone watched it. If you did watch it, let me know, please. That would be helpful. But yeah, that's my hope, is that we kind of continue to have these conversations as filmmakers and as directors about how critical and exciting like sound is. So it's not just getting your sound right so that it's not bad, but getting your sound, like pushing our sound to a new level to like really unlock some additional narrative elements in our work. So anyway, all right, thanks for watching. Have a good one.